Hello, I'm Ken Profit, and welcome to another BlenderBranch.com tutorial. And this is how to use the Force using Blender. So this is a really quick visual effects tip using the video sequence editor, and it's really simple to pull off and a lot of fun. So jump right into video editing tab, and here's the VSE. And if you want to watch a comprehensive video on how to use the video sequence editor, you can check out one of my tutorials on that on my channel or on BlenderBranch.com. But for now, we're just going to get into this simple effect of using the Force. So what I'm going to do is drop in my movie clip that I've taken, and I'm just going to show you sort of what I did. You'll want to keep a few things in mind when you're shooting your footage. I'm going to add this to my strip. Now the turquoise track is my audio, and I'm not going to worry about that, so I'm just going to delete the audio by pressing X and choosing delete. So here's my footage. It was at 50%. I zoomed in there. If you want to change the full resolution, you can do so by going back to default and setting the resolution there. 50% gives us a less memory usage, so it's easier to work in. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Now this is my clip, and if I press Alt A, we can play through this here, and you can see I look up, try to grab it, and then I grab it again, and then I freeze. And then let me just extend my timeline out here so you can see what I'm doing. I'll keep playing, and my wife was kind enough to help me out. She picked up the lightsaber, so now we have a few seconds of just clean plate with no lightsaber whatsoever, and that's important. You want to make sure you have that. And then she placed it right back at my hand, ready for me to grab, and then she focuses. So she'll focus my here in a second. She'll focus it right there. So this was just to try to add one more problem to this puzzle. I wanted to, you certainly don't have to pull focus if you're doing this type of a shot, especially if you're doing it on more of a 2D plane. So if you're just picking something up off the ground and the lightsaber's on the same plane as your actor, you don't have to worry about pulling the focus. But what I had her do was go ahead and focus on my face once the lightsaber was in my hand. That way I can sort of do that real quick rack focus there on my shot and make it look like it was just a little bit more cinematic. So if we keep playing, once it's there in position, I'm all focused up, then I clench down and there, grab it. So what we're going to do is chop this video clip up, and we're just basically going to do some fancy video editing and then a teeny tiny bit of masking. So first of all, what I'm going to do is trim the beginning and get it started where I want. So right before I kind of lift my head up here, I'm going to trim this front off by pressing K to create a cut, and then X to delete the excess there. And then I can just press G to move my footage back to the start of the timeline. And you can go back and play. So now I get up, look around, see the lightsaber, try it there. And then as soon as my hand is up and frozen, right? Probably, you always want to cut on the action. So the last frame that I sort of freeze my hand, that's the one I'm going to cut on. So right here, I'm going to press K to cut. And then I'm just going to cut to where there's some blank frames and hopefully no shadows in the shot. So right about here, this is our clean plate. I'm going to press K to cut right there, and then just delete all that extra footage. And then I'll move this, or actually, let's grab about 6 frames of this clean plate. So you can count just by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, actually, let's go 7. I think that was the magic number I decided. 7 frames of this clean plate where there's no prop whatsoever. And by the way, I just used a lightsaber because, I mean, Force, Star Wars, why not? But you can do this with any object, computer, box, chair, what have you. You don't have to, if you don't have a toy lightsaber lying around the house, you don't have to do this. But that's just what I chose to use. Okay, neither here nor there. Now I'm just going to press K and cut that. So now I have about 7 frames of a clean plate right here that I'm just going to drag. And if you hold down Control, it will snap into position. So I'm just going to put that right there. And so now what we have is the lightsaber basically disappearing. And there's a little bit of movement. I didn't freeze perfectly, so oh well, I'm not too worried about that. But that's pretty good right there. And now the last thing, we just need to find where my hand actually clenches the lightsaber while it is in focus. And that's somewhere back here. And again, you want to cut on the action. It'll look weird if you cut while my hand is kind of frozen. So you see my hand starts to move right there, so I'm going to cut on the action right there. Press K to cut. Again, delete the excess and grab my footage over. And so I'll just put that into position like so. And now what we're going to do with this clean plate right here, I'm going to go ahead and move this up a track. Actually 2 tracks, because I know I'll need this one here. And I'm going to move, let's see, we're going to compress things a little here. So I want basically 1 frame overlapping on this side, and then 2 frames overlapping on this side. 2 frames of my clean plate. So I have one frame overlapping my first clip, and then 2 frames overlapping on the second one. And basically what we're going to do here is help with that sort of pull focusing and make it kind of a softer transition. So for now, if we were to watch this just by pressing Alt-A, you can see the lightsaber disappears and then reappears in my hand, and you know, looks pretty awful. We don't want to leave it at just that. But we're on our way. So let's help smooth out this kind of blotchy transition here. And the way we're going to do that is by grabbing this clean plate here. I'm going to go over to the right hand side. If you don't have that, just press in. And I'm going to mess around with the opacity here. So right at the start of this clip, I'm going to leave the opacity at 1. So I'm going to set a keyframe here by pressing I on 1. I'm going to drag over to the edge of the clip and then turn the opacity down to 0 and set a keyframe. So now we have a little bit of blurring going on. What? Hello. My original keyframe didn't get set. Okay, so I'm going to redo that there. Set I, keyframe, there. So now you can see a little bit of blurring in between. And that just helps blend those clips together, and it also helps with the whole rack focusing, because you have kind of the fields shifting there a little bit when you add that little bit of opacity. And that just blends those together. And I am seeing this clip, it looks like there's you see a small part of my house that you didn't see in this shot. So let's go ahead and correct that. Obviously, if you shot your footage without moving your camera, you want to have this problem. But if you move your camera like I always tend to do, then just go ahead and add a transform node. And what we can do with this transform node is just hold down shift, drag the X and Y position. I'm just going to drag that over till that line matches. And now you can see we have some blank frames here. So we're going to actually end up scaling this a bit. So I'm just going to scale this 1.02, 1.02, just ever so slightly. That might do the trick. Reposition it maybe. Make sure the whole frame is filled, and yeah, that looks pretty good. That fixes that problem almost perfectly. Okay, great. All right, so a little cleanup there. And now the same thing we did with the opacity on this end, we're going to do on this end, but with just 1 frame. So I'm going to set a keyframe on the opacity when this clip ends. So I'll press I, and then come to the front and turn this all the way down, and press I there. So now we should have kind of a blending of those 2 clips. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So now we can play this. And it's a lot smoother of a transition with the lightsaber disappearing and reappearing in my hand. But of course, we still need that lightsaber moving across the scene, because if you don't have that, then it's just completely not believable at all. I think while I'm at it, let's see, 1, 2, 3. We have an extra frame in here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I only want 3 frames in the middle. So I'm going to move all of this. I'm going to press B to box, grab all of this, move it over 1 frame. Just by pressing G to grab. There we go. So I only want 3 frames, 3 blank frames in the middle. So what I'm going to do, that left 2 frames on this side. That's fine. What I'm going to do with this is leave my keyframe there on 1 for the opacity on this side of the clip. But what I can do with my dope sheet is change. Oh, it already changed that for me. Oh, that's why. The keyframe's right there. Okay. What we can do with this dope sheet is move this little dot over to this frame. That may not make any sense at all. But this dope sheet, this sort of peak right here, this is our opacity. So, you know, I can grab that, turn it up and down, and it's doing the same thing as this slider over here. So basically I just moved our keyframe over 1. So now the 0 opacity starts here, and then by the second frame of this, it's all the way back at 1. And that just helps blend those clips together a little bit better. So basically I just added an extra frame for blending. Okay, now that's great. Now we need to add the lightsaber that sort of flies through the middle of our scene. Now to do that, what I did was, when my lightsaber was here, I shot a clean play of just the lightsaber without me in the scene. And you'll want to do the same so that you can take a picture of it if you want, or you can certainly do a 3D model in Blender. But because I wanted to make this a simplistic effect, I went ahead and just shot a clean play of my lightsaber under the same lighting circumstances. And I'm going to drop that clip into my VSE. So I'm going to press Shift A and add in a movie clip. And it's this clip right here, this lightsaber clean plate. And I'm just going to add that. Again, delete the turquoise track. That's our audio, and we don't need this. And basically, this is just a few frames of lightsaber, and nothing interesting happens. So I'm just going to cut at a random spot and put this right over that clean plate. Okay, and we'll just trim this down. So I'm just going to cut all this excess. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Just cut the excess by pressing K to cut and X to delete. And now I have this clean plate over my scene. Now we need a mask to mask out all the excess we don't want. So what we're going to do is go into the motion tracking tab, and we're going to drop in that same clip. Now this is, if you have my lighted up visual effects pack, you know that this is a pet peeve of mine. The motion tracking tab should sync flawlessly with the video sequence editor, but you can see it doesn't. And why doesn't it? This is very frustrating to me, because if it did, then Blender would be, you know, awesome. It would be a complete visual effects package in my mind, but I'm not complaining. There's workarounds, which is what we're going to do. So I'm going to load in that same clip, our lightsaber plate, into the motion tracking tab, and now we can create a mask around this sucker. So what I'm going to do is just go to masking, create new mask, name this lightsaber, and I'm going to start masking this out. So to do that, hold down Control and left click, and you can be really precise with this if you want. I'm just going to kind of do a quick masking job. Again, this is all going to be blurred and not really seen much, but you know, if you get the little nooks and crannies, then that'll just help with a little bit of detail. But for the sake of time and this tutorial, I'm just going to kind of breeze through, do a quick masking job here, and yeah, I won't speed it up because I know a lot of people like to they don't like time lapses. Sometimes I do them, but sometimes people get mad. And I'm just holding down Control and left clicking to create this mask here. Just masking around. Now, the reason, if any of you have been following Blender Branch, and you know that I haven't done a tutorial in a while, and my tutorials, I do apologize, are coming less and less frequently, but that is because I'm currently doing a lot of different things right now as far as learning, trying to learn new things, trying to come up with better tutorials. So I'm in the process of learning more things in regards to animation and visual effects, and I can't wait to share all that with you. But the other reason is I just became a dad last Tuesday, so I now have a son. And yeah, we had the baby. Well, my wife had the baby. I didn't do a whole lot other than just kind of stand there and say, "You got this." But yeah, we have our son, and he's a week and a half old now, and really completely changes your life. and really kind of your perspective on life when you have a child that you all of a sudden have to care for and who is depending on you for everything. And but it's been awesome. Been really awesome, but definitely time consuming. And yeah, definitely a good way to lose some sleep. So as such, I've been really busy, caught up with a lot of other things, and that is my excuse for why it has been, I don't know, it feels like it's been a couple months since my last tutorial. I do apologize, but I do feel like I have a pretty good excuse, so hopefully no one's upset about that. Alright, so I'm going to close this mask by pressing Option and C, and there we go. Now I have my lightsaber masked out pretty well, and that's going to be good enough for me, so I'm going to jump back into the video editing tab, and all we did in the motion tracking was mask out, create a mask that we can use in the video sequence editor. So again, kind of a cheat, kind of a workaround, but what we're going to do is with this clip selected, come onto the right hand side and add strip to modifier, and we're going to choose mask. And now this, if we choose mask, we'll be able to select our lightsaber mask. And because we're using the exact same footage and we didn't move anything, it can take the information we used on the motion tracking tab, even though that was technically a totally different clip, because it's the same shape, same dimensions and all that. If we select that, boom, it's applied directly to this clip in the video sequence editor, which is great. So now we have something masked out that we can animate and fill in the gaps of our sort of force lightsaber thing. So what we're going to do with this clip selected is press Shift A, add a transform effect, and I'm going to change the blend type to alpha over so that it's overlaid over top of our footage. And here we have our we have our lightsaber visible on this frame, and then it's in my hand on that frame. So what we're going to do is set a keyframe on this first transform node at about, yeah, we'll go this frame right here. Okay, so I'm going to on the X, Y, scale, and rotation, I'm going to set a keyframe here by hovering over and pressing I on each of these values, like so. Okay, now I'm going to jump to the end where this lightsaber is in my hand, the real one, and not our mask. And I'm going to adjust the settings so that our masked out lightsaber matches roughly the same distance and size and all of that. And this is just going to be rough. All right, so for the scale, I'm going to go, let's try 0.25 by 0.25. Oh, by 0.25. There we go. It's about the same size. And then just holding down Shift, I'll drag these X and Y sliders into position so that it's roughly where my hand is over the lightsaber, like so. That looks pretty good. And now with it in position there, I'm going to hit a couple of keyframes, animating that transformation, and you should have something like this. So the lightsaber starts with the original prop ended up, and then it kind of blends right into where my hand is. Okay? But now it looks way too kind of straight and just lame. So let's do a little bit of rotation for this guy. So what I'm going to do is about midway through, I'm going to kind of swivel this rotation, add a keyframe, jump another frame, and kind of go the other way. And add a keyframe. And there you go. So now you kind of have that sort of movement, and it looks more like it's rolling towards me, which is great. Okay, now we just need to sort of blend it together. So what I'm going to do is grab this, oh, we need to blur it, actually. That's what we need to do. So with this transform node selected here at the top, this is the last one we're working with. Let's press Shift A, add effect strip and Gaussian blur. And with the blur node selected, let's change this to alpha over. And we're going to set the X to something about 10 and the Y to something about 30. And let's actually reverse that. Let's set the X to 30 and the Y to 10. And you might see some weird sort of artifacting going on underneath there. And that's just because this weird thing with the blur on top of the transform. What we need to do now, since this blur is our final layer, if you will, what we can do is take the opacity of this transform all the way down. And there we'll have just this blurry lightsaber to work with. So now we can make any sort of adjustments you want, setting the level of blur. It depends on, oh, not that blurry. Depends on how blurry you want it, and you know which way you want it blurred. You can really pick sort of interesting things. So that's kind of cool actually. If you go small on one and then pretty high on another, you basically just want it to be out of focus and blurred. Okay, great. All right, now I'm going to set the overall opacity of this to 0.85 so that it's slightly invisible, just to get that nice faded look. Make sure it looks like it's sort of floating through the air. And now for some blending. So this is the opacity we're going to be messing with here. So I know I want it visible right here on this frame. So I'm going to set an eye on the opacity there. And then I'm going to jump all the way to the beginning of our lightsaber plate here. I'm going to turn the opacity all the way down and hit eye. So now we should have a blending of those two. So our original lightsaber kind of blends into that blurred out mess. And when you go slow, it's kind of noticeable and looks kind of weird. But played back quickly, it really looks pretty cool, which we'll do in a second. But now we need to do the same thing on the other end. So on, let's see, this frame, when the lightsaber is in my hand right there, or really it's about right there. So what we can do is hit a keyframe right here, drag to when it's officially in my hand, turn the opacity of our lightsaber layer all the way down and hit a keyframe. So now that is nicely blended in with the shot of me grabbing it. Okay, so now the effect you should have is so. So we have our mask, which is animated, and I pull that lightsaber straight toward me, and I've done some fancy blending to give the effect of rack focus. So basically I just had my original clip focused on my lightsaber, another shot of me grabbing the lightsaber, and then a clean plate there in the middle, and I went and threw a mask over on another clean plate of just the lightsaber, did some fancy blurring and animating, and you have the effect of using the force to grab an object, along with that fancy rack focus. So there you go. That's how to use the force in Blender, which we can go ahead and do some quick color correction. If I just press Shift A and add in an adjustment layer, and then just drag this so it covers everything. Everything is pretty much the exact same lighting, so we don't have to really adjust things separately. And let's see, let's find a good ending point here. And right there before the edge of that lightsaber pops out. And we'll just cut all of this and delete the excess. There we go. Okay, so now with this adjustment layer selected, what we can do is come over to the right hand side and we'll add a color balance node, and I'm going to take the gain to the blues and the lift to kind of the greenish yellow. Brighten that a bit. Darken the gain. Give it that bluish tint. And I won't go too extreme with that. And I'm just going to turn the saturation down to about a 0.85. And to boost some contrast, I'll just add in a quick curves node here. And boost the lights. Take down the darks. A little too much blue here. There we go. That's pretty good. That looks a little more cinematic. Let's check that out. Alt A. And again, it'll play at a lower frame rate until everything is sort of played through once. And then it should play in full speed once you've seen it all. There we go. Now it's playing a steady 24 frames per second. And there we go. A little bit of color correction. And we have a pretty decent visual effect. That was really easy to pull off. Now if we just set our in frames here, let's see, this goes to frame 188. So we'll set that there. I'll jump back into the default, set my output resolution to 100, and just choose my output directory. I'll just throw this on my desktop and call this force and accept. And if we just hit animation, it'll render out what's in our video sequence editor. And I have it set to a series of PNGs, which you can take those, put it back into the video sequence editor and edit out a movie clip, or you could go straight to a movie file. It's all up to you, your choice. But there you have it. That's our effect done and dusted. And this is the perfect effect to use alongside my new visual effects training pack, Light It Up, which is dedicated to making Star Wars type visual effects. This tutorial was actually going to be a part of that, but it turned out to just be a quick and easy tip that I really wanted to just share with you guys and make sure it was free for everyone. But if you like this and you want more Star Wars type tutorials, go check out Light It Up on blenderbranch.com, and you can make an entire lightsaber battle and throw stuff like these types of tips and tricks into your visual effects and short films. So that's all for me this time, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next blenderbranch.com tutorial.